Hi, everybody. Thank you, Mark. Figured out our problem. So welcome. It's good to see familiar faces and new faces. And I love having people in the room. I'm full of gratitude. And we also have people on Zoom. Hi, Zoomers. Can you hear? I can't. They're not answering. Well,
Yes,
Mark,
Yes, we can hear
you.
Yeah,
oh, somebody answered. Okay,
don't pin me
good.
again, though.
I can see a couple of them, not all. His name isn't on, no. Okay, so you have come here for a talk entitled How to Create a Loving Relationship with Yourself. And would you like to come in? Oh, okay. You all deserve a loving relationship with yourself because you were born intrinsically good and lovable. However, because of stress that happens in most childhoods, we often grow up trapped in a false belief that we're not okay. And that is a false belief. So today, my hope for you is that you will leave here seeing yourself with new eyes, and that the lens through which you look at the world is going to be clearer and more loving. And I want to, as my regular folks know, I love quotes. So I want to quote the ancient poet Rumi, whom I may have quoted before. He says, "Everyone will die, but not everyone will live." A lot of wisdom in that, right? So my message to you about that is, if you want to be fully alive, it's crucial to love yourself and to have a loving relationship. It is the single most important aspect of your life. It colors everything. So as I said, my hope for you today is you leave with seeing yourself with new eyes. And I want you to be aware that your true self, the self you were born with, the good, valuable self that you may not be in touch with, but it never goes away, that self is deep within you. So I want you to invite it to emerge. And we're going to take a look at details about that, of course. But before I go further, I have a very important announcement that is sad and joyful, just like life. The announcement is that Mark Hudson, who's been hosting me for 10 years, since 2013, is retiring. Oh, no. This is his last talk. He actually retired a month ago, but he came back, and I'm grateful that he came back for this talk. Oh, Lynn said he does such a good job. What I want to tell you, two things about Mark. He is a consummate professional, and I mean that in the best sense of the word. I hope Mark's listening. He is a librarian who loves the library and wants to protect its culture. And he is so savvy literarily. When I submit PR, I often have a quote, and he checks it, and he finds it might be a little bit inaccurate, and he cleans up my act. Isn't it? So the second thing I want to tell you about Mark is he's very caring. Do you see what he did with Zoom? That's a lot of trouble. Why does he do it? Because he knows people with immune problems can come into this room, and he wants to avail them of what the library has. So that said, I hope you will join me in a rousing round of applause for Mark. Bravo, right? And I will miss him. And Mark, I want to wish you and your wife a very joyful new life chapter. They love to travel. They do a lot of cultural events. So, and he has already named a person who will help me with the talks here. So I will be back. I just won't be with Mark. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Oh, her name is Pam, somebody. So let me have a little sip of water and we'll get into our topic after the 3 R's. If you've been to my talks, you know I always make 3 requests, right? The 3 R's. The first one is to interact with me throughout the talk. Do not wait till the end. I'm informal. I love your questions. I love your comments. I love Nancy gave me scripture quotes last time. I love hearing from you. We create the experience together, okay? So do not hesitate. Every question is intelligent. The comments help me to elaborate. So please interact throughout, okay? And the second is a requirement, that is confidentiality. If somebody shares personal material, it will stay in this room. Agreed? Now, the third is the request to be here now. And as we know, it's really difficult not to be distracted with those 60,000 thoughts that sometimes are like galloping horses. So I have this little exercise. It's real fast, but it will help you to be here now, I think. Okay, the first thing I ask you to do is close your eyes. Take a nice deep breath. And then make a conscious choice of where you will focus. And of course, I hope you'll choose to focus on this room. But this is good practice for keeping your thoughts where you want them to be, right? Okay, so an overview of our time will be, we're going to look at 3 basic foundational building blocks of self-esteem, which is another word for self-love. And then we're going to look at habits which will strengthen every one of those building blocks, and then habits which will hurt the building blocks, and anything else that's on your mind, okay? And so remember, never hesitate to interrupt me, okay? And that includes you Zoomers. So the very first building block is, oh wait, I want to define love. And those of you who have been to my talks know I often define love if love's in the topic, because the word love has been mangled in our culture. And, you know, love at first sight, which is impossible. And so love is, this definition is from The Road Less Traveled, and Scott Peck's book that changed my life. The definition that I embrace is that, I'm distracted because Mark has arrived. Mark, did you hear our round of applause?
Thank you. Just going back into the-
Okay. Oh, you did. Did you hear the words I said about you?
the last part.
Oh, he didn't hear oh, okay. He'll listen to the recording. I want you to listen to that affirmation. Okay. Okay. So the definition of love, it is not essentially a feeling. And that's great news, because depending on what we carry within and the heaviness we might have to work through, it's hard to feel the love, but we can still love ourselves because it's an action. It's an act during which you set aside your preoccupations, extend yourself. Why? To nurture growth. And you all, in my opinion, committed an act of love by coming here. Right, Natalie? Yes. You set aside your preoccupations. You extended yourself by getting in the car. And gee, you know, it was even snowing when I came in. Is it still? Yes. And why did you come? I hope because you wanted to nurture your growth. So that's when I say love today, this is what I'm referring to, this action. Okay, so the very basic building block of self-esteem is self-awareness. You cannot love who you do not know. And sadly, many of us grow up without knowing ourselves. And so we're going to take a look at, why do people resist going within? We must go within to figure out, what do I think? What do I believe? What do I value? What do I want? What do I need? What am I grateful for? What do I feel sad about? There's so much. It's a journey. It's a journey of discovery, self-discovery. And there's no healing possible without going within. You must go within. And there are, have any of you heard of this book? It's so charming. The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. Have you heard of that? Okay, well, it was on the bestsellers list for a long time. It's nonfiction. And it looks like a children's book, but it's full of wisdom, and it was on the adult list. So here's a quote from that book. One of the characters says to the other, "Isn't it odd? We can only see outside, but nearly everything happens inside. Isn't that interesting?" But many of us, including me, until I started to wake up, maybe when I was 30, I never went inside. Why? Because I was always scanning the environment. What do they want of me? Will they like me? Will they approve of me? And in some cases, for people who've been abused, which we know are many, they scan the environment for danger, vigilance. So many people live and die without going within, which is very sad, very wasteful. So I just wanted to mention a couple reasons why, well, I just mentioned one. People don't go within because I remember a client, I invited her to go within and discover her true self. And she said, it's funny how, 30 years of therapy, but you remember certain quotes from clients that come back and you realize how important they were. She said to me, "Eileen, there's nothing in there." You see, that's why she wouldn't go in. She didn't believe. And in truth, it was layered over. She didn't sense any life. So that was her work, to believe that, yeah, you're born with all kind of potential. You're a child of God. You're full of potential. You're made in his or her image. The other reason people won't go within is they sense that it is a warehouse of pain from the past. As we talked about on January 20th, if you grow up with addiction in the house, arguments in the house, abuse in the house, abandonment in the house, you grow up feeling anxious, fearful, sad, and often thinking it's your fault. So many people know that if they go within, it's gonna be hard. But of course we have to do that. We have to let go of the pain of the past. But anyway, those are some reasons why people won't go in. And yet, as I said earlier, I hope there's no healing possible without going within. Going within. And here's a quote that says a lot from Ralph Waldo Emerson. "What lies behind us, the past, and what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us." And that is really true. And Deb, I'm going to ask you to pass this. And when you just hold it and absorb those words and remind yourself there's a rich storehouse within you. lots of discoveries. Let me glance at my notes a minute here. Okay, so to put it another way, we must grasp where we are presently in order to know where do we want to go and what do we want to become. So going within is your starting point. What do I do next? What will be nourishing to me? And one of the things we can do, Sharon, I remember you mentioned this at our last talk, that your therapist said, make a list of your likes and your dislikes. I mean, that's a way to approach it. Getting to know yourself, and you will find both. You will find both. And we'll see in the next building block, well, what are we going to do with all that? That'll be coming up, strategy for that. Let me glance at this a minute. When I wrote about likes and dislikes, I had this memory of when I was 19. Now, I was still not awakened, let's say, but I was in a class at Carlow with Edmund Egan, a philosopher, and he said in this class, if you don't like something about yourself, you can change it. Well, I didn't know that. See how we can grow up not knowing. He said, you can become. I never heard that word before. It's existential psychology. You can become, you can change. Well, I remember like, wow. And what I thought of was, I don't have to be shy. I was painfully shy. As you know, who have been here before, I grew up with an alcoholic dad, and it was scary. And kids think the world is like their house. So when I got out into the world, I hid out, but it was painful, you know? So in that class, I said to myself, I could change. So what I did, now this is before therapy, it took me 10 years, but I did it. I tried new behavior. When I walked into a room, instead of hiding out, I looked up. Maybe I smiled. So it's a good reminder that it won't take you that long, trust me. But when you're 19, there's a whole lot more going on, as you know. But you're here, you're alive, you want to grow. It's a wonderful situation for making changes. So any questions or comments? I've been rattling on without hearing from you. Anybody? Paula.
Nothing was scary. Yeah, I can relate to that, but there's that point in time where you start to build a facade around.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, the mask. It isn't your true self. Excuse me. It's the false self, which most of us have until we wake up. And some people live and die, sadly, with the false self. Yeah, that's absolutely right, Paul. And as I prepared for this, I was thinking of how I was so outer-directed that I was graduating from high school. I never thought about, what are you going to do, Eileen? I didn't think of it, imagine. But my mother did. She thought I should go to college. So she said, take this test, and I did. Good girl. I was a good girl, of course, you know that. So I was blessed to win the scholarship, and I could go because we were not affluent. 8 kids, steelworker. So when I look back, I feel like, oh my God, the grace of God was really helping me out there, because I wasn't active on my own behalf. So let me glance at I wanted to leave this part. This would be the basic building block, self-awareness. To leave it, I wanted to share this quote, which I thought was interesting. It's by a woman named Polly Behrens. Does anybody know her? I couldn't, Berends. I've been collecting these quotes for so long, and sometimes I don't write down where it's from. So Polly's a mystery, but I like what she said. She says, everything that happens to you is your teacher. Everything that happens, we can learn. The secret is to sit at the foot of your life, of your own life, and be taught by your own life. The first step in finding your way is to discover where you are to begin with. And again, that kind of echoes the earlier quote that I gave, that we have to grasp where we are so we know where we're going. Rhonda?
Ever since I was a teenager, excuse me, I had said to a bunch of my friends, I said, you know, life is like school. If you don't learn it, you're not going to pass that section in your life, and you're just going to keep repeating it with other people, other situations, but the same message.
Wow, that was wise. How old were you when you, what?
Yeah, and they looked at me like,
Wow.
I don't want to go to school. We're going to be done at school.
Ron, did you folks hear what Rhonda said, or should I repeat it? Repeat it? We should come up and repeat it. It was long. Yeah, come on up. Rhonda's, okay.
Ever since I was about 13, I told a bunch of my friends that I think life is like school, and if you don't pass or learn from whatever is going on, then you're just going to repeat it. It'd be a different situation, different people, but the message in the test will still be the same.
Did you hear that, folks? No, they still didn't hear it. Okay, I'll try to translate it. Okay, so Rhonda, when she was 13, she was already waking up and growing, and she's been to every talk I've done here, and I appreciate that.
This is our last. What do you mean?
So Rhonda said when she was 13, she told her friends, life is like school, and you have to learn your lessons. If you don't learn it, you will repeat it. Is that it?
Mhm.
And so that's wonderful. Jean?
You've just been replaced.
Melanie?
I just wondered, I had a life similar to yours, so hopefully yours wasn't, but regardless, it was bad. And anybody I went to school with, Linda's my best friend.
Uh-huh. The facade. She put up a facade.
Did everything, cheerleader, did everything, you know, made okay grades, never knew what went on.
Uh-huh.
But I find as I'm getting older, maybe because it didn't come out then, I don't know. I'm really stuck in that.
Oh,
Remembering, and
well, Melanie, you came to the right talk,
that's what I.
because I'm going to deal with that.
Okay.
So, oh, okay. Should I repeat that, folks? Melanie shared with us that she had a very difficult childhood, but no one knew it because she had her facade on, her mask. She was a cheerleader. She was a good student. And so she said, at the time she didn't feel the heaviness, but now that she's getting older, she's feeling it. Is that accurate? Okay, so I told Melanie she came to the right talk because I'm going to focus on what do we do with the pain of the past. It doesn't go away.
Find our happiness in much of anything in life, and I have a much different life. I mean, my mom finally got out of the situation and that, but from what I've been told, I don't want to say the damage was done, but whatever. But today I know that there's a flip side. You can't be happy, but something.
There's always.
No, but something's gonna happen.
Yeah,
and
the
I don't see
vigilance.
anything that's happening.
So you learned that as a child.
Men do a bit of abuse. It's just tragic. They say they don't know how to. I think you're free.
Well,
They can't be innocent.
Well, they won't do anything like that unless they go to therapy and unpack the pain of the past. Because one of the basic truths about the psyche is emotions must be expressed. If they aren't, they are stored for decades. I've worked with the oldest woman I ever worked with. She was almost 70 when she came in. We traced her lack of joy to when she was 5 and her sister died and she wasn't allowed to cry. Do you get it? So all of that sadness and heaviness she carried around for decades and couldn't feel joy. But the good news is it's never too late. You can learn how to do this. The joy will be able to surface. Melanie?
It's really hard when you have, can't understand what your past. You know, that's not now.
Oh.
Why, you know what I mean?
Well, you'll have to educate him, babe. I mean, what else can you do? Melanie's saying her husband had a good childhood and he doesn't understand her heaviness and says that's in the past. But guess what? The past is still present if we haven't expressed the pain and unpacked. I think of it as a backpack with big rocks in it. Unpack, lay that backpack down, unload those rocks, feeling by feeling. It'll be a journey, but you'll start feeling better even when you start doing it, you know? Well, it's coming up, Linda. Linda wants to know how you do it. And actually, it's in the next building block. Nancy. Emotion must be expressed, and I don't remember, but I'm going to deal with it. Oh, I said it's never too late. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you. It's never too late. I mean, well, and then it makes room for joy. See, we have inner space. It's a finite amount because we're human. So if your inner space is filled with sadness, sorrow, grief for what you didn't get, there's no space for the joy. Jean?
The way you handle something in your past that really bugged you, acknowledge it, learn from it, and let it go. If you could do that.
Absolutely. Jean is saying, kind of building on what Rhonda said, you got to know what it is, got to be aware, deal with it, let it go. Let it go. Yes, it can be. Debbie says that's hard. And if you've never had joy, well, you're right. It's unfamiliar. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Eileen.
Yes. Yes. Wait, Patty has something to say. Yes, Patty?
I just wanted to go back
I
to
can't hear her now.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. I wanted just to go back to your quote from Polly Behrens.
Yes.
Okay, because you said, she said you can sit at the foot of your own life and let it teach you, right? So
Yes.
I looked her up. She's an author, and so she's written some books, children's and adult books, but one of them is Whole Child. And I wonder if that's where the quote came from.
Did you say whole child? WHOLE. Thank
Yes.
you. Patty looked up Polly Behrens. Remember, I just quoted her. She's written a lot of books, and one is called Whole Child. So Patty thinks that quote is from Whole Child. Thank you so much, Patty. Instant research. Now, Deb, I want to go back to you because you said it's hard. But Deb, nothing worthwhile is easy. The results of doing the work are priceless. Okay, then we got to get it down to your heart. Okay. It's hard, but it's possible. And guess what? Once you start, you get a little bit of change. It creates more change. Then it's a chain reaction in the right direction. So I'm going to ask you, Deb, you've been very faithful at coming to these talks. I'm asking you to set aside your skepticism and try to have an more open attitude. okay, and see, something might shake loose, okay?
Eileen,
Yes, Sharon, yes.
fear will stop you every time. You cannot allow fear to overtake what you need to do to become better.
Excellent. Sharon said, fear will stop you. Do not let it take hold. Fear, in fact, Sharon, as I was preparing this talk, I said to myself, the next talk I do should be on fear, because people live fear-based lives, many people. And what I want to do, and I can't do it today, is take a look at how many fears we create in our head, or they're based on the past. And very few fears are real. Like Lisa has a mask on, which I respect, because there is a fear of catching something. So there is, when there's a fear, that's a tangible. So for the tangible fears, we take precautions, and then we have to let go and not keep thinking about it. So at any rate, I'm going on too far, but thank you for mentioning that. I want to do a talk on fear. And have you heard of, I think Mark Twain made this up, the acronym of fear? False evidence appearing real, FEAR. Did you ever hear that? I think it was Mark Twain. I'm not sure. But it's wise. False evidence. We create the false evidence based on the pain of the past and our assumption that it's going to repeat. We're vigilant because for many people it did repeat. I've worked with a woman who had the cruelest childhood I've ever heard of in all 30 years of listening. She cries at every session, maybe for a whole year, the whole time. Why? Because it was so cruel. And when she remembers, she has to get the grief out and the tears. Yes, it's hard, but she's reclaiming her true self, which was buried under there. So the other thing, well, I'm getting ahead of myself. I better pause and go back to my notes. But we're going to go to the second building block of self-esteem. But before I do, is there anything left over? Oh, Lynn.
I just wanted to say a little bit more about joy.
Yes.
You know, in my family growing up, the women were joyful, but my dad was not a nice man. You know, he was an alcoholic and abuser and that sort of thing. So I was from him too. And so even though you get a grasp on the joy, Christmas is my joyful time. Okay, and I just had an epiphany while we're talking, and I Christmas shop all year round, and I think the reason I Christmas shop all year round is because I'm grabbing a little joy along the way.
That's good, Lynn. Yeah. Did you folks hear that? Should I repeat it? I have to repeat everything, right? I should just repeat it. Okay. Yeah, I wish we had a way with microphones. But anyway, Lynn said that, like many of us, she had a dad who wasn't real nice, but she was still able to feel joy, especially at Christmas. So now she Christmas shops all year long, and she believes it's, hey, she wants some tastes of joy all year. I think it's very therapeutic, Lynn. You probably get some. The Christmas room.
I open the door and see what I'm talking to.
That's a good strategy. So we have to be creative too in figuring out, what do we need? See, that's why we want to go within self-awareness. What do I need? What could I do? You all have a lot more potential than you realize right now. To try to believe that you have more courage and strength and wisdom. Some of it's hidden down there. We're going to say more about that in a minute. But okay, shall I proceed with the second building block, which is self-expression? So the first building block, you're getting to know yourself, okay? So now, as you get to know yourself, you're going to know what you need to express. Now, this deals right with what we're talking about. There are three aspects of this we're going to look at. And the first is healing the pain of the past. Most of us have stored up pain unless we've had a lot of therapy. And so we want to identify what is stored up and maybe self-expression is the second building block. We're going to look at three aspects of that. The first is the pain of the past. Now, emotions, as I said earlier, do not go away unless you put words to them. It's best if you have a listener that you trust. Linda's there. If you do not have a trusted listener, write it out. Those of you who've been here, that's one of my, what would you call it, mantras. Journaling is therapy. I had a dream once that actually said that. Journaling is therapy. I believed it, then the dream validated it. When you put words to things, your experience, it gets it out of your body. See, the reason emotions don't go away is they have a physical component. Every emotion has a physical aspect, like anger, right? Feel it? The tears of sadness, the fear of getting chills. So the physicality of the emotion stays in your body unless you talk about it and sometimes do something physical. One of my memories from when I was married was, in those days, I ironed. Remember ironing? I've almost forgotten it. But the only time I ironed when I was angry at my former husband. Now, unfortunately, you might, but in those days I ironed. So I got it out of my body. In those days, I probably didn't know to put words to it. It was pre-therapy, but at least I knew I had energy that needed to be dispelled. So let me look at these notes here a minute. Okay, so the pain of the past is often about grief because of what we lost.
We keep getting lost.
Yeah, but it depends on what you need to focus on. So if you have a lot of pain of the past that hasn't been expressed, remember that it'll be grief, a lot of it. And fear, maybe repressed fear. There will be tears, like my client that cries every time, and I respect tears. There's always a reason. If a tear falls, there's a reason. Ask yourself, what is it expressing? One of the writers says tears reveal a person's deepest truths. I believe that. They always have meaning. Now, I may, when I tell an anecdote, I think, oh, some of you heard this before, but I need to do it. I had a client who told me she cried during McDonald's commercials. Now, isn't that okay? So what did we do with that? We had to respect it because she cried. So what did her tears mean? We talked about it and she figured it out. In the commercial, a family was getting in a car to go to McDonald's for a Big Mac. I could go for one right now, actually. So the tears were her family never did anything like that. Never, you see, grief. She was grieving for what she didn't have. And it was still alive. But as soon as she talked about it, excavation, I think of therapy as kind of an excavation project. You know, you go back and you figure out what happened and what do I need to do to take care of myself to heal it. So that is, I told you I have 3 parts to self-expression. That's the first part. The healing emotions. Oh, not just the emotions from the past, the emotions as you live. Anytime you have, and you know, in the field, we say mad, bad, sad, and glad, meaning these are the 4 authentic emotions. Everything is an offshoot. Mad, sad, bad, fear, glad, joy. So everything, if they say, I feel so disappointed, What is it? Are you afraid? Are you sad? You know, if you really want to fine tune your emotional state. Rhonda.
I actually think there's two. It's either love or fear, and everything branches off. There's only two.
I will respectfully disagree with you, my dear. Rhonda said she sees only two emotions, love and fear. Fear is a biggie, but love isn't always a feeling. So you can be loving without feeling. That's why I cannot embrace that, Rhonda. Paula.
I don't know if this would be an appropriate time, but when you're talking about feeling pain of the past,
Yes.
what came to my mind was a storage locker. And I don't know about anybody else here, but I have stuff. Now, I don't have a storage locker, but people do. So you put things away in that storage locker, and you pay for that every month. And when you finally open it, it's like, what am I holding on to December? What am I holding on to?
Yes, Paula that's really helpful, Paula. Paula shared a metaphor about having a storage locker in which instead of stuff, you're storing your feelings. And then when you finally open it, you might say, hey, why am I holding on to it? It's hurting me. And I'm paying every month the storage fee. And you're paying with psychological energy. Yeah, thank you, Paul. I like that. I think Melanie likes it too. Okay.
Eileen,
Yes, Patty?
just a quick question. I know you were going over the building blocks. And so the second one's self-expression. The first one's getting to know yourself. And I was just wondering, do you have a list of ways that one gets to know themselves? I know someone from the audience there said their therapist told them to make a list of what they like about themselves and what they don't like about themselves. But do you have kind of a recipe?
I do have a handout on that, Patty.
Okay.
And actually, Mark copied it last time. I can get you that handout, Patty.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, it goes into all the aspects of your selfhood, you know, your relational self, your spiritual self, your physical self. You could, it would be a guide. I mean, one could do it without that, but if it's helpful, I'll be glad to get it to you. And some of you got it here, right? Right? Yeah. Oh, may I see it? I'll recite the categories to Patty. Thank you, Deb. Patty, actually, one of our people, Debbie, a faithful attendee, has it with her. It's called Getting to Know Me, a self-inventory for expanding self-awareness. And the categories are, I can't read everything. I'll read you the categories. Inner self, and that's really what I talked about, right? What do I think? What do I feel? Physical self, that's pretty obvious. Your physical self, your spirit self, and your relational self. What am I like in a relationship, right? So thank you so much, Deb. Okay, so I'm moving on to the second aspect of self-expression. Any questions about the first, meaning express your emotions, old ones and current ones. To a listener, that's the most therapeutic. If you don't have a trusted listener, get out a journal and write in detail. The pain is often caught in the details. So write in detail. And I think I mentioned last time, I have 38 journals. And I was once away, I was once away and I took all my journals because I was going to read them. And in the middle of the night, there was a fire alarm. And what did I do? I ran to the box with the journals, left my keys, my wallet, really. And I thought, now see, there's a clue. What did I value? Luckily, it was a false alarm, or I wouldn't have keys to my car. But it was a wake-up call to me. Wow, you really do value those journals. And they are so helpful because at my age, it's suggested that we do a life review. So I have a guidebook through my whole life. And what, as an aside, why do we do a life review? We want to learn what are we really grateful for? What might we have to forgive? Who might we want to be in touch with? Who might we want to express gratitude to while they're still alive? So it's helpful. So do we have any journal keepers here? Hey, we have a couple. Deb.
You know, I just took a course on peace coloring. She was suggesting I throw away, and I'm thinking, no way. She said, you don't want people to read those after you're gone.
Ah, that is the biggest excuse I hear for not journaling. Someone will read it when I'm gone. So what? Unless you're a criminal or a scandal monger. So what? Yes.
Movies out of that stuff.
Yeah.
So you could be famous.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay, folks. Well, we'll do the second aspect of self-expression, which is using your voice, literally your voice, to speak truth and to use the pronoun I. Now, when I was married and before I got therapy, I never said I, never. Why did I never say I? I didn't want to be wrong. I think this, I think that. I used to quote my former husband. Vince thinks this. Vince believes this. I didn't realize it when I was doing it, but as I look, yeah, he was on a pedestal. I mean, in those days, I didn't wake up to the fact that, hey, men and women are equal. Anyway, so why did I do it? Insecurity. I didn't want to be wrong. Imagine how it affects everything. So as you grow yourself,
Maybe you want to be right either.
pardon?
Maybe you want to be right either.
That could be, that was unfamiliar, Lynn. Lynn said maybe I didn't want to be right, but yeah, I didn't have that much awareness, but yeah, a lot goes on under the surface. So use your voice to speak your truth. You'll know when it's important. Especially in relationships, it's so important to use words to protect you. Let's say someone isn't treating you well. It's important to say, I don't want to be treated like that. I don't deserve that. This takes courage, right? And again, through my clients, I learned people, I'd say, let's say a woman would describe a scene and I'd say, well, what did you say to him? Nothing, because it wouldn't have changed him. That's not why we do it, babe. We can't change anybody but ourselves. And that's hard enough, right, Deb? So words can protect us. We use them to strengthen our sense of self. That's why part of the reason I always want to hear from you too, because using your voice strengthens you. When I was really shy, if I went to a talk like this and I had a question, I was too scared to answer. My heart would beat. I'd be afraid to raise my hand and say,
People make fun of your question.
yeah, I guess.
You also said all questions are intelligent. You just started the question.
Right, I believe that. But back then I didn't know it, Lynn. That's for sure.
We had stupid questions in our mind.
Right, right.
You don't understand. It's stupid.
Yeah, well, it's the self-image that comes from insecurity, which is very wasteful of life. Okay, let me see what I want to say about that. Okay,
My
so
mother always said, why do you always have a mother? I was in this little conference, you know, a little Jewish girl next door. Her parents were saying, you must know everything. So I was always asking questions, and I'd go home. My mother was like, why is it you always have to know everything?
and how did that make you feel?
Well, she didn't understand me.
Right.
I
So
wanted to know everything.
Lynn-
I must know everything.
Lynn was quoting her mother as saying, why do you have to know everything? Which in a way is kind of a put down.
Well, I still get in other ways that are difficult.
Oh,
Why
why?
do you guys always question?
Because I'm interested, I care, use I. But the things that parents say often end up forming core negative beliefs in us, which aren't healthy. Like You don't do anything right. Did you ever hear that one? You'll be the death of me yet.
Yes.
I mean, these are cliches, but they hurt kids. Yeah, as if the kid is responsible for your well-being. This does incredible damage, as we talked about on January 20th. And any of you that there's a video of that talk, it's called Learning to Love Yourself. You could access the video and hear the whole talk about how children are like clay and they're formed by the mirrors the parents hold up to them. And often those mirrors are stressed because of the 4 A's. I'll repeat the 4 A's. Addiction, abuse, an argumentative atmosphere, and abandonment, meaning emotional abandonment. Or I've had many clients who said, my dad left when I was 8. My dad left when I was 6. And then this isn't explained to the child. Daddy wouldn't have left if I was a good boy, you know. Melanie, you want to tell her? The 4 A's?
Right, addiction, abuse, trying to read.
Argument,
Abandonment's last one, and
argumentative, argument, a war zone.
yes.
If your house is a war zone, guess what a little kid thinks? Yeah, it's my fault. And if I were a good boy, a girl, they'd be fine. And I've shared this maybe on January 20th. I had few male clients in my 30 years, but one of them I'll never forget. When he was 6 years old, he decided to commit suicide. 6. Why? Honey, we didn't get into that. But he wanted, well, hey, he wanted to commit suicide. Why? The parents were arguing all the time. And they said, I don't know which one said, we were fine until you were born.
Oh, wow.
Now they probably, I hope they didn't realize the damage they did, but parents often don't realize their power. They have the power to form a psyche and a soul. So yes. Okay, that kind of gives me pause to think of that little 6-year-old.
So it's the love and acceptance. We didn't say anything positive in these 4 A's.
Oh, of course not. We're looking at what hurts a child in the early years. So those are the 4 A's. And 19 out of 20 kids experience them. 19 out of 20. If you're skeptical, I'll tell you how I know that. Sharon.
You know, you can commit suicide without killing yourself.
You mean psychological suicide? Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I mean, that, you just wanted to get away from that.
Yeah.
And, thinking of suicide, is the only answer, but I think you can.
Well,
commit
he may,
suicide in a lot of
we
ways.
don't know which way he wanted to do it. But you're right. That's what we're talking about today. If you don't have a loving relationship with yourself, you're not fully alive, right? Right. So if you want to be fully alive, you've got to do the work of healing and emptying the storage locker, right, Paula? The pain of the past, it can be done. Okay, so that's 2 aspects. Use your voice, especially when your inner voice tells you, I need to speak now, because words protect us. Words can protect us, and it's so sad that people often won't use words. Fear of disapproval of the other, fear of rejection. What we owe the other person are only 2 things: honesty and kindness. So if you have something difficult to say, to stay honest, do it kindly. That's the best you can do. And that's the healthiest you can do. And, I thought what we're talking about, the terrible things parents say. One of the ones I've heard more than once is, you should have died instead of him. When a brother died before this child was born. I've heard that more than once.
Parents can do such selfish things.
Well, destructive. I would call that destructive, beyond selfish. Yeah,
They were satisfying your own needs.
exactly. Yeah. Okay, so the third aspect of self-expression is, oh my gosh, time flies. 3:10. But I can, oh, you guys, if you have to leave. Oh, okay.
Changed my mind.
Oh, good. She's wise. Okay, so the third one is sort of a lighter one. Wait, I want to give you a quote from the Gnostic Gospel of St. Thomas for the first aspect, expressing what is within you. In the Gnostic Gospel of St. Thomas, which was found in the 40s, but has been proven to be authentic, Jesus is quoted in it a lot. And one of the quotes I love, Jesus said, if you express what is within you, what is within you will save you. If you do not express what is within you, what is within you will hurt you. What higher authority, what great psychology and theology. So take that to heart. Encourage yourself with that. Okay, the third aspect is a lighter. It's like, be willing to tell people about yourself, like tell stories about yourself. Share stories, just little adventures, little anecdotes, happy or sad. And, when because the more you share, the more people can hear. If you are too private, people don't have a lot to care about, I mean, there's a cousin in my family who's very private. And yet I know part of her doesn't feel cared about. But you see how she's enabling that by staying too private and not talking. Hey, I did this or that, or I like this or that. It doesn't have to be heavy. And, one of the blessings I get when I'm preparing a talk, even if I've done it before, I look it over, I try to renew it. So this time I found this, and it is fascinating that there's a Dr. Paul Zak, Z-A-K, he's a researcher who studies the neurological impact of narratives. So if you tell a story or you listen to a story, it secretes I don't know how to say this, Lynn's a nurse. Tocin. Oh, Natalie, yeah. It secretes oxytocin, which is a neurochemical that has to do with bonding. It's a positive. Okay, so he says that when you tell a story, it releases this and it lowers your blood pressure. Imagine. Isn't that? Imagine. And this is amazing. Yeah, and hearing the stories. Yeah, well, and it kind of reveals why telling stories, kids always want you to tell them a story. So that's part of the power of stories. So if you're not used to telling a story, try it. Try it as a form of self-expression. Okay. I was going to tell you a story about how a smile changed my life, but I think it's too. You want me to tell you? Okay, I'll go fast. I can go beyond 3:30, but if you have to leave. Well, I have another piece. I have the third building block, remember. Okay, here's how a smile changed. Here's how a smile changed my life. And it kind of illustrates, well, the person that it's catharsis too. Like there's the warm connection to the teller occurs often. So anyway, here's how a smile changed my life. So I told you I didn't know what I was going to do after high school, but I'm at Carlo. Now it's called Mount Mercy. It was called Mount Mercy. So it's freshman orientation. And we're standing in a circle to listen to the professors talk about their major. So you can decide what to major in, okay? So I'm standing with my parents. My mother was pregnant. I was embarrassed. Yeah. You know, so remember how insecure I was. I'm embarrassed. Yeah, a lot of it, 8 of us. So, and I can tell my dad's nervous. So my dad's nervous. Okay. I'm the first one to go to college in the class, in the whole family. So then they go, I say to myself, oh my gosh, I don't know what to major in. The only thing I know about myself is I love to read. I used to escape into books from the household atmosphere. So the English professor spoke. I won't tell you her name. I don't want to malign her, but she looked like a grouch. Okay. She looked scary. So I said to myself, oh my God, I don't think I'll be majoring in English. but I didn't have to declare it yet. Okay. So then another sister, it's her turn. Sister Rita. She looks seemingly at me and smiles. And I knew I was going to major in whatever it was. And I mean it because I felt safe. A smile makes you feel safe. Luckily, it was psychology. What if it had been chemistry? I wouldn't be here with you. But anyway, that's my story, how a smile changed my life. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. God watching over. Yeah, the grace of God. The grace of God, right. And Sister Rita and I, she was like a second mother to me. And through till she died. In fact, in my book, there's a story called Sister Rita, Lessons in Living and Dying. So I'm grateful for her in my life. Okay, that's my story. I'd like you to tell them, thank you for encouraging me. Are you glad I did? Okay, thanks, Melanie. So now we get to our final building block of self-esteem, which is self-responsibility, which means you are now responsible for every aspect of your life. Some writers call it reparenting. It's when you give yourself all the loving attention you did not get from your parents that helps to heal the wounds. When you take care of yourself like a loving parent. And one of the ways I woke up to that was I was in therapy, thank God, and I was moaning and groaning about my mother. I mean, she had a lot of good things, but she wasn't real nurturing and she always had a baby. And there was I, you know, hey, what about me? That's why I only have 2 kids, by the way. But anyway, so I'm moaning and groaning to Sadie Strick. She was a great therapist. She died recently. And she said, Eileen, again, it's amazing how you remember one sentence. It's time to become your own mother. That shocked me. I have to mother myself. Now it's a common thing that we know we are to reparent ourselves the way a loving parent would have if we had had one. So what I want to tell you about that, let's see. So in terms of self-care, you know, when I encourage clients to do this, to take care of themselves, sometimes they'll say, Eileen, I think you're telling me to be selfish. No, self-care is not selfish. It's a balanced way to take care of the valuable person you are. You're valuable. God made you. You're it's a commandment for some of us. Love your neighbor as yourself, not instead. But a lot of people think neighbor first. But you can serve your neighbor better if you're taking care of yourself. So along those lines, I want to talk about, okay, the habits that will help you to become a loving parent to yourself, okay? I wanted to quote Aristotle here. One of my favorite quotes is, we become what we habitually do. Aristotle said that. So if you habitually do some of these 12 habits I'm going to propose, you're going to get to a new place. You're going to get to a more loving, respectful place with yourself. And this is hard work, as Debbie has acknowledged. So I want you to realize that you can take baby steps. Do like these 12 habits. I wouldn't expect you, oh, I got to get going on these 12 habits. No, choose one or two. The rule of thumb is it takes 3 weeks for a new behavior to set in. So if you do it consistently, if you do it once in a while, yeah. So consider, be persistent, be patient, persevere. Okay, so the first habit is, it kind of repeats the first building block. Become an inner directed person. See, all of our inner voice, our intuition is within us. We have wisdom within us. So we always, when something comes up, check in with yourself first. Check the environment. We need to know what we're dealing with. But the best knowledge will come from inner and out. So if someone, I remember once I was on the spot about something and I said, oh, excuse me, I have to go to the ladies' room. So I went to the ladies' room to think, oh my God, what do I want here? To check in with myself. Be your own expert. Notice what else is around. I'm not saying you'll know everything, but you have wisdom inside of you. Tap into it. And there's only one way, by going within. Now, the second habit is related. Spend time daily in what I think it was Thomas Merton called it, the classroom of silence. You know how we said, and Rhonda reminded us, we can learn from life, which is true. But we also need to be silent to hear our inner voice and to hear our wisdom. So go into the classroom of silence, a little something every day, I think, 10 minutes or longer. Go into the silence. And I know people who leave their TV on all day. If you happen to do that, I urge you, don't do that, because that is a distraction. And especially if the volume's up, you can't hear yourself, that inner voice. Paula? Yes. Oh, good. Paula was saying yesterday were you at home? And there were a lot of voices, and she realized, oh, I yearn for some silence now. And it's really good that you're aware of it, Paul, that you knew you needed it. It's a healthy habit. Okay, should I continue? The third one is, this goes in under reparenting. Learn to be self-soothing, meaning if you're feeling uneasy or you had a tough time, give yourself a warm, kind space within and soothe yourself. Do you see what I mean? Be compassionate to yourself. Be kind. We often think, yeah, I'm going to be kind and compassionate, but we don't realize, hey, give it to yourself too. Give it to others too. But treat yourself kindly. You deserve it. You deserve it. You're a valuable person, born intrinsically good. And only you're one of a kind. Only you can make your unique contribution to the world, whatever that is. So, okay, shall we go? Number 4, I know that I heard you folks talk about it before we started. Number 4 is present moment living. We must be in the now, because that's where life occurs. Sadly, many people pasteurize and futurize. And they're the 60,000 thoughts a day, the past or overly in the future. Oh my God, what if that happens? What if that happens? So stay in the moment. And it's hard. It's hard, isn't it? But you can do it. You learn. And if you want to be reminded how to do it, watch the video from December 9th about retraining your brain.
Where are these videos? On
They're from the library, but they're through YouTube. I don't know exactly how to do it, Google it, but Mark will tell us.
He's leaving.
Yes, he is, sadly. Oh, you weren't here when we talked about Mark. Were you late?
Yes, that's what I said. I can't talk to him. He's leaving. We can't check it.
Oh, okay. Well, he'll be here. I mean,
Our main resource is leaving.
we'll have to find new resources. Okay, number 5, this is a repeat. Honor your feelings. Honor your feelings. Don't try to just get rid of them. Yeah, they're annoying. They're a nuisance, but they all have a message for you. Discern the message. That'll help you let go. Like my client had to discern, why am I crying for McDonald's commercial? There was a reason. So try, right? Or maybe both. So try to discern, and that helps you let go too, if you can discern the message. Number 6, this is a new word I just learned and I love it. Practice biophilia. Does anybody know what that means? I just learned it. Well, no, actually bio in this sense means nature, everything that's alive. So it's love of nature. So it's a great source of nourishment to go out into nature and see the beauty of nature when you're feeling gloomy and down. Consider immersing yourself in nature. Okay, does that make sense? Philia, biophilia. Philia means love, right? Yeah. Bio, it's one word, biophilia. Okay, have it? That's a pleasant one, isn't it? Philia. So number 7, do good. Do something good. And as Martin Luther King said, the most important question we need to ask ourselves is, what are we doing for others? Now, I might disagree with Martin and said, first, we must say, do I have a loving relationship with myself? And then what am I doing for others? So get grounded in your loving relationship and you will have the right energy to do something for others. Selfless service. And I want to, when I started to grow, I said to myself, I don't know if I wasn't real spiritual then. And I thought, I don't know if I'm good. I don't know if I have goodness in me. Because I was dealing with the marriage and stress all the time. So what I decided to do was to give myself a project of something I didn't want to do, which was to visit the lady who used to own our house. I heard she was sick in bed in the neighborhood. So I pushed myself to go there once a week. And I did it, and it felt good. So that's what it took for me to convince myself. Now, I hope you don't have that problem, but if you do something good because you are good. If you need to be convinced, try that. Anybody? Questions, comments? Oh, you have to go? Well, thank you for coming. Natalie and Jean have to leave now.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you. And I'll hope to see you next time for the fear talk.
Yes.
Good possibility.
Good, I hope so. Gene always breaks the gender barrier. He's a courageous man. Okay, bye folks, bye-bye. So, yes, it's 3:30. So let's see. Number 8 is almost repetitious. Practice compassion and forgiveness. Forgive. If you hold on to unforgiveness, bitterness, resentment, practice compassion for yourself and others and forgiveness, because unforgiveness is toxic.
Well, what?
It's toxic.
Yeah.
It will hurt you. It will make you bitter, and it will store up resentment, and that will take space from joy and good things. Number 9, stay connected to people. It's so important to stay connected. And if you're not connected enough, consider joining a group like a book club, a gym, volunteer, garden club. we learn more about ourselves as we connect to each other. And you might hear some stories, you might tell some stories and get that tune up that we talked about with the narratives. Number 10, stay open. Deb, this has your name on it. Stay open to new possibilities. Engage in possibility thinking. My favorite poet, Emily Dickinson, she says, dwell in possibility. Isn't that refreshing? Dwell in possibility. 11, remember the greatest freedom is how you react to any situation. You have a tough situation, you have a choice of how you react to it. And then 12, consider taking a monthly inventory of how you're doing with the growth project. Now, without putting pressure on yourself, because this is hard, but check in with yourself on a regular basis. Okay, that's kind of reinforces the inner directive, right? Okay, so now we're going to look at habits that will hurt you. There aren't, I only have 8 here. I'm sure there are more, but okay. So,
I only have part of it. Remember, choose your reactions to the situation.
yeah, remember that it's a freedom to choose your reaction to whatever comes up. And that can be challenging, as we know. Okay, any other questions before we do toxic habits? Melanie?
That, number 8. I'm sorry, but how do you have her?
Where?
Any kind of forgiveness.
Oh,
I mean, any kind.
oh,
Don't be afraid.
Melanie.
I'm just asking.
Oh, but yeah, I can't answer it. It took me 2 sessions here to describe it. Look it up on YouTube. I did 2 forgiveness sessions here.
Did you miss them? I didn't know that.
Well, right, but please look them up. I can't, I will just say it's possible. It's possible to forgive. We all make mistakes.
Forgiveness and forgetting are not the same.
Oh, it's,
Forgiveness when somebody refused to get help.
well,
Who abused you. Well, I can't forgive that.
well, we can't debate it. We can't debate it. Melanie, I encourage you to go to YouTube, and I forget what dates it was, but you'll find it. It was so, people needed it so much. They asked me to do part 2. Yeah, and the room was pretty full. Oh, are we closing? Oh. Thank you, Sharon. Yes. Well, she's right. Linda's right. Sharon's right. What you're doing is you're taking poison and hoping they will die. This isn't about them. It's about you. It's a gift to you. It is not a gift to them. They may not even care.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be mutual. You can do it alone. You don't have to talk to them. There are 5 myths about it. I can't do them all now. But one is forgive and forget is a myth. You don't have to forget. If you're raped, you don't forget, but you can still forgive. Yeah. Sharon.
I have to leave, but I want to leave with something I heard on the Today show. They interviewed a psychologist. But she said before you get out of bed, you have to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It resets your mind. You know, and it's a very simple thing to do. And I've been trying it. It does seem to help. So.
Well, thank you, Sharon.
Thank you.
Okay, come back again. Good, right. Okay, well, they're turning the lights out here, so I better move along with the toxic habits. They close at 4. Okay, number 1, all forms of negative self-talk are toxic. We know this from our talk on December 9th. And Melanie, you were at the Oakmont Library for Retrain Your Brain. So any negative thinking, especially you guys were talking about this rumination. And it's a nice acronym. Is that the word I want? RAW, R-A-W. Rumination, anxiety, and worry will rub your brain raw. Rumination, R-U-M. Paula has it for you, Nancy. Okay, so the second one is just to say one of the most wasteful activities of your thoughts would be comparing yourself to others. A lot of people do that. It's totally wasteful. The only comparison we want is you and what you're going to grow into, if you want to, but not you and another person. Some are more together than you, sort of, some are less. It doesn't matter. We don't want that. If you're in perfectionism goes with that often. Paula?
One thing came to my mind real quick. Imagine a spotlight and God shining the spotlight down. It's on you. Nobody else is in that circle. He created each of us unique, different gifts. Different
Yes,
strengths.
wonderful.
The spotlight's on you.
Okay, thank you, Paula. In terms of comparison, Zoomers, Paula's saying the spotlight is only on you. There's only one of you with your unique gifts that the Lord created, and comparing is waste. Okay, number 3, the toxic habit of mind reading. Like, well, I know what they're thinking. 2 was comparing.
Oh, thank you.
1 was all forms of negativity, especially raw.
Okay, thank you.
Then comparing, then mind reading. I know they're thinking about me. They probably think I'm not okay. No mind reading. No, it's not okay. It hurts you. Number 4.
Number 3. Of mind reading. Yeah.
The 4 is judging yourself through the lens of the worst thing you ever did. So let's say you made a really big mistake and you keep going back to it. Oh my God, I can't believe I did that. And judging yourself that way. When we all make mistakes, the key is acknowledge it, regret it, learn from it, and let go. Let go. The only real mistake is the one from which you learn nothing. So 5, beware of the familiar. You were talking about this before, weren't you? The familiar. The familiar draws us and it often isn't healthy. So we have to beware our comfort zone with the familiar. Be alert, it might be hurting you. And then be alert about repressing the emotions. It's just a reinforcement.
Or is that continue to 5?
No, that's 6.
Would you come back and talk about that a little more? Beware of familiar.
A lot of people are drawn to something that's familiar because they feel it's comfortable, even if it's not good. It's what you know is comfortable. I'll get 1 minute, Rana. I want to give you an example. I had a client whose best friend was really mean. And I said to her, Mary, friends are supposed to be good to each other. So what's up with this? So what did we learn? The friend was like her mother. She was drawn to the familiar. And she was so used to it that she has a high tolerance. Rhonda.
Some people are afraid to do the work to change, so they're drawn right back into the same situation because that's all.
Yeah, Rhonda said some people don't want to do the work, so they go back to what they know. So it's about waking up again. It's about staying self-aware, making conscious choices. We create our life through conscious choices. Okay, let me finish this up. 7, storing up resentments. 6 was no repressing of emotions, which is, the opposite of, just to reinforce it. 7, beware storing up resentments. And if you don't forgive, guess what? Resentments cause physical problems sometimes. They create more arthritis because you're holding in. Are you expressing surprise or are you yawning? Oh, okay. She had an aha moment. Yeah, actually, 80% of doctors' visits have no organic cause. Stored up emotions. Oh, you are young for it, my dear. I have some too.
You have severe osteoporosis. I was fine of an 80-year-old woman.
Oh, no.
They had quack doctors.
Oh, how
And
sad,
I'm trying to-
Rhonda.
trying to
She's
forgive,
62. I would have never guessed that.
trying
I thought you were
to forgive.
40. Yes, you must forgive. Let go. The forgiveness is a gift for you. They could care less what's happening, right?
They just wanna give it a try.
And remember, I mean, in terms of forgiveness, those of you who might be of Christian faith, remember what Jesus did on the cross. Come on. He's dying. Forgive them, Father. They know not what they do. And guess what? A lot of the perpetrators don't know what they do. They're zoned out. They're not in touch. And that doesn't mean what they did was okay. We never say that. Okay, number 8, the last one. Beware of escapes and distractions in your life. You know, you don't want to do anything in an out of balance way, even if it's a good thing. Like I have like being busy all the time. Seems good, you know, I'm productive. But if it's out of balance, it ain't good because you're neglecting something. So I'm going to wind down.
Beware of escapes and distractions.
Well, look at your life to see if you are have a behavior that's out of balance,
Okay, like when you lie. Okay,
that it becomes an escape.
okay. Eating.
Yeah, eating, drinking, gym.
Yes.
It can be good stuff. TV, shopping, big time. Retail therapy, as they call it. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to wind down. Are there any questions about anything I've shared before I close with 2 thoughts? Okay.
Do you have
Okay.
any upcoming